From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has ordered all government agencies to ensure aid swiftly reaches residents hit by the combined force of the enhanced southwest monsoon or habagat and tropical cyclones Luis and Maymay, especially those in hard-to-reach areas. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro confirmed the President led a situation briefing Monday morning, directing agencies to monitor safety in Metro Manila and other rain-soaked regions and to extend support to evacuees returning home. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, reports 39.37 million pesos worth of assistance already distributed by the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, in coordination with local governments across Metro Manila, Ilocos, Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, Cordillera, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Bicol, Western Visayas, and the Zamboanga Peninsula. Deployment is underway. 3,841 personnel from the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, National Police, and Coast Guard are on the ground, backed by 14 air assets and 1 naval vessel. Another 4,392 responders with 943 pieces of equipment remain on standby, with additional resources prepared by the Office of Civil Defense, AFP Navy, and Bureau of Fire Protection. The DSWD has rolled out 54,370 family food packs, 2,722 ready-to-eat meals, 23 assorted food items, and 1,376 non-food supplies. Nearly 1 million pesos in financial aid has also been released under its Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situations program. Nationwide, close to 5 million food packs and 245,474 non-food items are stockpiled, alongside 1.61 billion pesos in disaster response funds ready for immediate mobilization.
Kaninang umaga, pinangunahan ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. ang situation briefing kasama ang lahat ng ahensya nakabantay sa kaligtasan ng taumbayan sa mga apektadong lugar. Ipinag-utos din ng Pangulo na agad na tiyaking na abot ang lahat ng mga apektadong residente, lalong-lalo na sa malalayong lugar. Siniguro rin ng Pangulo na mabigyan ng tulong ang lahat ng mga apektado, kabilang na yung mga residenteng nakabalik sa kani-kanilang tahanan mula sa mga evacuation centers. Sa datos ng National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council o NDRRMC, umabot sa 39.37 million pesos ang kabuuang tulong na ibinigay ng Department of Social Welfare and Development sa pangunguna ni Secretary Rex Gatchalian, kasama ang iba't ibang lokal na pamahalaan sa mga apektadong lugar. Naipaabot ang tulong sa mga apektadong residente ng Metro Manila, Ilocos Region, Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, Cordillera Administrative Region, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Bicol Region, Western Visayas at Zamboanga Peninsula. Aabot din sa 3,841 personnel ang dineploy para posibleng sa search and rescue operations habang nag-deploy ng 14 air assets ang isang kagamitan pandagat mula sa Armed Forces of the Philippines, Philippine National Police at ng Philippine Coast Guard. Mayroon ding naka-standby na 4,392 personnel at 943 na iba't ibang kagamitan para agarang deployment kung kinakailangan. Nakahanda na rin ang mga kagamitan ng Office of the Civil Defense, Armed Forces of the Philippines, Philippine Navy at Bureau of Fire Protection. Sa report ng DSWD, umabot sa 54,370 family food packs ang kanilang naipamahagi, kasama na ang 2,722 ready-to-eat food items, 23 na iba pang food items at ang 1,376 na non-food items. Umabot rin sa halos 1 million pesos ang naipamahagi na tulong pinansyal ng DSWD sa ilalim ng AIX program. Sa ngayon, umabot sa halos 5 million family food packs ang nakahanda ng DSWD sa buong bansa, kasama ang 245,474 non-food items. Aabot din sa 1.61 billion pesos ang naka-standby na pondo ng DSWD sa buong bansa.
Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Public Works and Highways Secretary Vince Dizon says flood control measures rolled out under President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s administration are beginning to show results amid days of heavy monsoon rains in Metro Manila. In a palace briefing, Dizon cited the Oplan Kontra Baha program and other interventions, noting improvements in water levels and faster recession of floods. He stressed, however, that efforts must continue to correct decades of flood mitigation projects. The Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, is working with the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, and local governments to dredge waterways, expand drainage pipes, revive pumping stations, and clear garbage from canals. Dizon pointed to Navotas as an example, saying the city, once prone to severe flooding, has seen minimal inundation despite the rains and seawater intrusion.
Nasabi nga, na-report kanina, alam nyo naman, simula nitong late last year hanggang ngayon, marami tayong mga sinimulan na mga intervention sa iba't ibang areas sa Metro Manila at sa iba pang mga lugar, kasama na yung Oplan Kontra Baha na ginaunch ng ating Pangulo. And dahan-dahan nakikita natin yung mga magagandang resulta nito. No? Pero sabi nga ng Pangulo kanina, hindi nagtatapos dito to. No? Tuloy-tuloy yung interventions natin at kailangan talaga maisaayos na yung taon at dekadang ng mga hindi maayos na pagsasagawa ng mga flood mitigation interventions. No? So, 5 bagay lang ang paulit-ulit natin ginagawa sa lahat ng lugar. Number 1, yung dredging natin at cleaning ng waterways. Number 2, kagaya ng ginawa natin sa G. Araneta, yung pagpapalaki natin ng mga drainage pipes, dinodoble, tinitriple natin yan at makabago ng mga pipes ang ginagamit natin, yung tinatawag nga nilang HDPE, kung saan tatagal at mas mabilis ang agos ng tubig, kagaya nitong sa G. Araneta, no, nakikita natin na kapansin-pansin yung hindi masyadong pagtaas ng tubig at yung mabilis na paghupa ng tubig. No, ikatlo, yung ating mga ito din, no, sa Santa Isabel sa may Taft Avenue. Ikatlo, yung ating mga pumping stations. Alam naman natin, matagal nang rinireklamo, lalo na ng mga mayors natin sa Metro Manila, yung maraming mga pumping station na hindi gumagana. Pero ngayon, as much as possible, pinapagana natin lahat. At kung meron mga hindi gumagana o pumapalya, nag-aggregate tayo ng mga mobile pumps kagaya ng ginawa natin sa Marikina at sa Las Piñas nitong weekend. And finally, no, yung ano, no, yung paglilinis natin at tuloy-tuloy na paglilinis natin ng basura, no, na nakikipagtulungan tayo sa MMDA at sa ating mga mayors na linisin yung basura. Yun talaga, kung magagawa lang natin yun, paulit-ulit sa lahat ng lugar, tingin ko makakakita talaga tayo ng mga improvements sa iba pang mga lugar. So, tuloy-tuloy lang tayo. And ngayon, napapasok na ang 2027 budget na isusumite. Magkakaroon na tayo ng mga flood management at flood mitigation projects sa 2027 budget. At nakafocus tayo dito sa mga iba't ibang interventions na ito.
Meanwhile, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso ordered full mobilization of city agencies to assist residents affected by the southwest monsoon. In an emergency meeting, he directed the Department of Social Welfare to sustain food distribution in evacuation centers while engineering and environment teams were tasked to clear road debris. Dumagoso also instructed close coordination with Meralco to remove damaged electrical posts and cables and deploy traffic enforcers to aid motorists. He said he would decide by early evening whether classes would again be suspended Tuesday. The combined national and local response highlights intensified efforts to protect Metro Manila communities from flooding and related hazards during the monsoon season.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has conferred the Order of Sikatuna, rank of Datu or Grand Cross, silver distinction on outgoing French Ambassador Marie Fontanelle during her farewell call in Malacañang. The honor recognizes Fontanelle's pivotal role in elevating Philippine-French relations, particularly in defense and maritime security. She was credited with advancing cooperation that led to the signing of the Philippines-France Status of Visiting Forces Agreement in March 2026. The citation also highlighted France's support for a rules-based international order in the Indo-Pacific and Manila's maritime security initiatives. Fontanelle was further honored for promoting political and economic engagement, spanning infrastructure, transportation, energy, and sustainable financing, while also strengthening cultural and educational exchanges. Philippine-French defense ties have expanded in recent years, with both nations committed to closer maritime cooperation and upholding international law in the Indo-Pacific.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, has formally submitted to President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. the proposed 7.2 trillion peso National Expenditure Program, or NEP, for fiscal year 2027. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro confirmed Monday that DBM Secretary Kim De Leon personally presented the spending plan to the Chief Executive in Malacañang. Carrying the theme, People-Centered Growth for an Inclusive and Resilient Future, the proposed budget underscores priority investments in education, health, livelihood, national security, and community development. According to Castro, the program seeks to maximize public funds by improving government services and expanding opportunities for Filipinos nationwide. The NEP serves as the executive branch's official spending blueprint and forms the basis of the General Appropriations Bill, or GAB, which Congress will deliberate on before enactment into law. The DBM is set to transmit the NEP to Congress on Tuesday, marking the next step in the annual budget process. Lawmakers are expected to scrutinize allocations, debate priorities, and align the measure with the administration's development agenda. The proposed 7.2 trillion peso program reflects the government's push for inclusive growth, resilience against global and domestic challenges, and stronger delivery of essential services to the Filipino people.
Isinumiti ng Department of Budget and Management sa pangunguna ni Secretary Kim Robert De Leon kay Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ngayong August 10, 2026 ang Fiscal Year 2027 National Expenditure Program na nagkakahalaga ng 7.2 trillion pesos. Nakatuon ang budget sa edukasyon, kalusugan, kabuhayan, seguridad at pagpalakas ng mga komunidad alinsunod sa temang People-Centered Growth for an Inclusive and Resilient Future. Layunin nitong gawing mas kapaki-pakinabang ang bawat pisong pampublikong pondo sa pamamagitan ng mas mahusay na serbisyo at mas maraming oportunidad para sa mga Pilipino. Formal na i-turn over ang NEP or formal na i-turn over ang NEP sa Kongreso bukas, August 11 bilang susunod na hakbang sa proseso ng pambansang budget. Nakatakdaring magkaroon ng press briefing dito sa Malacañang bukas ng hapon, 1 o'clock, ang DBM para sa karagdagang detalye hinggil sa NEP 2027.
That was Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has appointed Dr. Edwin Mercado, Acting President and Chief Executive Officer of PhilHealth, as the new Secretary of Health. He replaces Dr. Jose Brix Pujalte Jr., who resigned due to health reasons, according to Palace Press Officer Claire Castro. Pujalte, who only assumed the post in July after Chodoro Herbosa stepped down amid a complaint filed against him that has reached the office of the Ombudsman. The case reportedly involves procurement issues related to tuberculosis supplies and other concerns. Meanwhile, Ayala Healthcare Holdings Incorporated Chief Health Officer Beverly Lorraine Ho, a former DOH official, will take over Mercado's role as President and CEO of PhilHealth. The leadership changes come at a critical time for the country's health sector, with the DOH and PhilHealth both under close public scrutiny.
Itinalaga ngayong araw ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. bilang kalihim ng Department of Health si Dr. Edwin Mercado na kasalukuyang Acting President and Chief Executive Officer ng PhilHealth. Naitalaga sa PhilHealth si Dr. Mercado noong February 2025. Bago naging kalihim ng DOH, nagsilbing Medical Director si Dr. Mercado sa Daniel Mercado Medical Center noong 1998 hanggang 2000 at nagsilbing President and CEO ng iba't ibang ospital mula noong year 2000 hanggang 2016. Nagtapos si Dr. Mercado ng Medicine sa University of the Philippines. Nagtapos ng Master of Medical Science in Global Health Delivery sa Harvard Medical School noong 2023 at mayroon din siyang Executive Master's Degree in Healthcare Administration mula sa University of North Carolina sa US. Papalitan ni Dr. Mercado si outgoing DOH Secretary Jose Pujalte Jr. Samantala, papalit naman kay Dr. Mercado sa PhilHealth bilang Acting President and Chief Executive Officer si Dr. Beverly Lorraine C. Ho, na kasalukuyang Chief Health Officer ng Ayala Healthcare Holdings Incorporated. Bago ang kanyang appointment sa PhilHealth, nagsilbi rin sa DOH si Dr. Ho bilang Assistant Secretary noong January 2023 hanggang January 2024 at Undersecretary mula July 2022 hanggang December 2022. Nagsilbing Deputy Spokesperson si Dr. Ho ng DOH mula March 2020 hanggang December 2023.
Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Monday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. welcomed senior United States defense officials in Malacañang as Manila and Washington deepen efforts to strengthen their alliance and bolster regional deterrence in the Indo-Pacific. The President received U.S. Undersecretary of War for Policy Elbridge Colby and Assistant Secretary of War for Indo-Pacific Security Affairs John No during a courtesy call at the Palace, part of ongoing diplomatic engagements with key Indo-Pacific partners. In a forum hosted by the Strat-based group, Colby, on his first visit to Manila in his current post, hailed the Philippines as a model ally and reaffirmed Washington's commitment to its oldest treaty partner in Asia. He stressed that the U.S. seeks partnerships, not dependencies, under its doctrine of achieving peace through strength. Colby underscored that alliances must be sustainable and durable, urging partners to invest in their own defense. The remarks come as the Philippines accelerates military modernization and expands defense cooperation with the U.S. and other allies amid rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific, particularly in the West Philippine Sea or WPS. The Philippines and the United States are bound by the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, reinforced by the Visiting Forces Agreement and the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, which allows greater rotational presence of U.S. forces in Philippine bases. Colby's Manila stop is part of a four-nation tour that also includes Indonesia, Thailand, and Cambodia, aimed at reinforcing U.S. engagement and its commitment to durable peace in the region.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang says a decision on the United States request to extradite detained Kingdom of Jesus Christ founder Pastor Apollo Quiboloy is expected within the next couple of weeks. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro confirmed Monday that President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has been briefed on the request, but wants the matter thoroughly studied before any announcement is made. The U.S. Department of State has formally transmitted the extradition request to the Department of Justice or DOJ, stemming from a 2021 indictment against Quiboloy on charges of sex trafficking of minors, fraud, and bulk cash smuggling. Castro noted that extradition is an option under the Philippines-U.S. extradition treaty signed in 1994, which allows for the temporary surrender of individuals facing prosecution or serving sentences in the requesting country. The DOJ earlier said it is reviewing the voluminous records submitted by the Department of Foreign Affairs before determining the appropriate course of action. A palace announcement on the matter is expected in the coming weeks.
Opo, nakausap po natin kanina mismo ang Pangulo at sinabi po niya na kailangan po talaga itong pag-aralan mabuti. Pero in a couple of weeks ay magbibigay po sila ng anunsyo kung ano ang magiging desisyon para dito. Nasa agreement po yan, nasa treaty natin with the US at kasama po ito sa provision. Kaya meron tayong dalawang options. Either manatili dito si Pastor Quiboloy habang dinidinig ang kaso dito sa Pilipinas. Pero pwede na temporarily ma-hold, ma-suspend ang kaso dito at magkaroon ng extradition at maipadala si Pastor Quiboloy sa US.
Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang has dismissed as baseless Vice President Sara Duterte's claim that President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. could be suspected of being pro-China if a list of alleged sympathizers is not released. In a briefing, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the remark was absurd, pointing to President Marcos's consistent defense of Philippine sovereignty and maritime rights in the West Philippine Sea or WPS. Castro also questioned why only the Duterte siblings, Vice President Sara and Davao City Representative Paulo Duterte, objected to Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro's call for officials unwilling to uphold Philippine interests in the WPS to resign. Vice President Duterte earlier argued that without a list, even President Marcos could be suspected of favoring Beijing. Representative Duterte criticized Teodoro's statement as loyalty test and accused him of demonizing China. Defense Secretary Teodoro has maintained that officials are duty-bound to support the country's position on the WPS, anchored on Administrative Order No. 29, which formally designates the West Philippine Sea. He said those who cannot support this stance should challenge it legally or step down.
Ako natawa. Di ko alam kung natatawa kayo. For me, nakakatawa kasi yung kanyang mga sinasabi. Unang-una, nakita po natin kung paano ipaglaban ng Pangulo ang interes ng bansang Pilipinas at interes ng ating mga kababayan. Marami na ang humanga at ipinakita na sang-ayon sila kung ano ang stance ng Pangulo patungkol sa ating soberanya. Kung paano natin ipaglalaban o proteksyonan, especially ang ating karapatan sa West Philippine Sea. Ang nakakapagtaka ay wala namang binanggit si Secretary Gibo kung sino yung mga opisyal na kung kayo ay hindi sang-ayon sa interes ng Pilipinas patungkol sa West Philippine Sea, ay kayo mag-resign. Hindi natin alam bakit silang dalawa lamang na magkapatid ang umalma. Minsan kasi pagka ikaw ay natutumbok, kahit hindi ka pinangangalanan, most probably ikaw ay nagre-react.
The exchange comes against the backdrop of heightened tensions in the WPS. Former President Rodrigo Duterte, father of the Vice President and Representative Duterte, had faced criticism for his conciliatory approach toward China, which many said downplayed Beijing's actions in disputed waters while pursuing closer economic ties.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, the House Committee on Ways and Means has approved two key tax relief measures aimed at easing the burden on individual taxpayers and small businesses. Lawmakers endorsed a bill raising the annual taxable income exemption ceiling to 350,000 pesos from 250,000, giving low and middle income earners more take-home pay. The panel also backed a measure exempting micro-enterprises from the 2% minimum corporate income tax or MCIT. The proposals introduced by Speaker Faustino D. III and Majority Leader Ferdinand Alexander Sandro Marcos were approved during a committee hearing led by Marikina Representative Miro Kimbo. Kimbo said the reforms are part of efforts to recalibrate the tax system to reflect the realities faced by Filipino families and workers. The MCIT exemption, meanwhile, recognizes the disproportionate impact of the levy on micro and small businesses still recovering from economic disruptions. Kimbo said the goal is to give entrepreneurs breathing room to invest, hire, and grow. The committee may consolidate the measures into a single omnibus tax reform package, balancing relief with compensatory revenue measures to ensure fiscal sustainability. Kimbo emphasized that while the bills deliver real relief, government must still secure resources to fund essential programs and services.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Education, or DepEd, is keeping a close watch on schools hit by severe weather from Tropical Storm Maymay and the southwest monsoon or Habagat. Latest data from the DepEd Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Service show 4,792 classrooms across 858 schools have been damaged. Of these, 917 were completely destroyed, 1,003 sustained major damage, while 2,972 suffered minor damage. The hardest hit areas are in the Ilocos region, followed by Central Luzon, Cordillera, Calabarzon, Eastern Visayas, Mimaropa, Negros Island region, and Metro Manila. At the same time, 387 classrooms from 107 schools are currently serving as evacuation centers, sheltering 2,065 families in Calabarzon, Central Luzon, the National Capital Region or NCR, Ilocos, Eastern and Central Visayas, Mimaropa, and Cordillera. DepEd officials emphasized that the department is coordinating with local governments and disaster response agencies to ensure the safety of students, teachers, and affected communities. The agency is also assessing the extent of damage to determine immediate repair needs and long-term rehabilitation plans. Education authorities noted that the use of classrooms as evacuation centers highlights the dual role schools play during disasters, not only as learning spaces, but also as safe havens for displaced families. The department said it will continue to monitor conditions on the ground and provide updates as rehabilitation efforts move forward, stressing that restoring damaged schools is vital to resuming normal classes and safeguarding the welfare of learners.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the La Mesa Dam in Quezon City continues to overflow as heavy rains from the southwest monsoon or habagat persist. According to Pag-asa's latest situation report, water levels at the dam reached 80.17 meters as of 8 Tuesday morning, remaining above its spilling level of 80.15 meters. Authorities are closely monitoring downstream communities along the Tulyahan River in Quezon City and the Caloocan, Malabon, Navotas, and Valenzuela or Kamanava area where rising waters could pose risks to residents. The State Weather Bureau has warned that sustained rainfall may keep water levels elevated, increasing the likelihood of flooding in low-lying areas. Local governments and disaster response teams have been placed on alert to ensure timely evacuation and assistance if conditions worsen. Officials emphasized that the situation underscores the importance of flood preparedness, as La Mesa Dam plays a critical role in Metro Manila's water supply and flood control system. Continuous monitoring and coordination with local authorities remain in place to safeguard affected communities.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and mabuhay.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.